Hello and welcome to our channel. Today we're going to explain the anime series called Spirit Chronicles. There are spoilers ahead. The story kicks off with a bang, literally, as the main man Haruto gets isekai'd via a traffic crash that sends him to a fantasy world. Now reincarnated as a young orphan called Ryo, he has a goal to take revenge on the man who murdered his new world mother, but in the meantime, he's stuck with a bandit of thieves who treat him poorly. Instead of feeding him, they tell him to go outside and wash up as his stink is making the food less tasty. Outside, he meets a group of ladies from the royal palace. They're looking for a kidnapped princess. One of the ladies uses some sort of scan thingy that reveals lots of magical power and optional throwing through our boy. That said, they leave him after saying he doesn't know a thing about this princess chick that they're talking about. When he gets back to his house, he finds out that the gang is dead. Then he hears a voice coming from a bag, and of course, it's the kidnapped princess. So he unties her and promises to get her to safety. Yet unbeknownst to him, an assassin is there, and he doesn't give a flying hoot about kids' lives. Thankfully, while knocked on the ground, a spirit shows up and tells our boy that he has lots of power and that she'll help him unlock it. With the process finished, he stands back and defeats the guy using the memories of him practicing martial arts with his earthly grandpa. After rescuing Princess Flora, Ryo, instead of getting thanked, gets captured under suspicion of being an accomplice in the kidnapping. He's later sent for some investigation, which turns out to just be torture by a douchebag knight in an attempt to get a false confession for them to avoid embarrassment for losing the princess. But he doesn't yield. When the princess wakes up, she tells the story of what happened and asks to see Ryo, who's been beaten near to death. However, since this is a fantasy isekai, he gets healed back to 100% by one of the ladies and is soon cleared of all charges, as well as granted an audience with the king. As a reward for rescuing Flora, Ryo is accepted into the Royal Academy. Although he's shunned by most of his peers due to his peasant origins, he finds comfort in the company of his instructor, Celia. Celia teaches him how to read and write the language of the New World, and being a university student in his previous life, he naturally excels in academic subjects for little kids, and regarding his combat lessons, he also shows great results while sparring with the instructors who give off grandpa vibes, and although the fight ends in a draw, the instructor is impressed and tells him that he has the making of a knight. But our boy says, yeah, not interested, G. The next day comes, and our boy is the talk of the school as he's top of the class academic-wise, and the dubs don't end here as he's also selected to represent the academy in the upcoming event alongside some brats who don't like the idea and protest it. But the old G tells them to STFU. The day of the events come and turns out our boy is going against none other than a knight douche who goes all out on our boy, but now having learned how the knights spar under the old man and having previous experts in kendo, he beats the knight ever so easily. Ashamed, the douche knight heads home to drink his sorrows with a sketchy looking man, while on the other end, our boy heads to the back of a school to receive what looks like his first love letter in this new world under the watery eyes of Celia. The next day, the class is sent to the forest for a military exercise. Our boy gets ordered to hold all the luggage by himself. Not wanting to cause any trouble, he agrees, though the princess he saved before offers to help him, but he says, nah, I'm fine. And so the group heads into the wilderness. They arrive at a dead end and get cornered by monsters that are way too strong for practice purposes. At first, the kids weren't that afraid as the monsters wouldn't cause any real injury, but after learning otherwise the hard way, of course, one of the boys runs into the princess, knocking her down the cliff, so Ryo jumps and saves her, sending her back up safely. Meanwhile, Ryo decided to lay down after seeing some of the kids falsely accusing him of being the reason the princess fell. However, when a mentor attacks the kids and the princess, he's forced to come out and save them yet again. Later, we see one of the noblemen talking to the instructor of the school, saying how it was Ryo's fault that endangered their kid, as such the main man is forced to flee from the kingdom after saying goodbye to his flat-chested instructor. While traveling, Ryo comes across a street food cart that's selling noodles and pasta, which makes him think, what if more people made it out of this world? He later then heads to a guild that's kind of like a hotel, and from there he buys all his traveling necessities, assisted by a cute blue-haired maid, is later on revealed to be the one behind the making of the guild and pasta. Now he's got all he needs, Ryo writes one last letter to his instructor to say goodbye, before heading to the forest where he meets Latifah, a young beastkin assassin that's tasked to hunt and kill Ryo. Ryo defeats Latifah and frees her from the magic spell that forced her to obey her masters. After she wakes up, she acts nothing like the assassin she seemed to be. On the contrary, she's more childlike and lovely, which is very sad actually, knowing what she went through with the douchebag family. After the questing ends, Ryo tells her to go far east where the beastkin live freely together, but the little fox girl knows nothing about about direction or beastkin, which is a bit sus. That said, she begs our boy to let her stay with him. Seeing how genuine she was, he agrees and the two start traveling together. Later that night, while the couple is resting in a tent, Latifah talks in her dreams, saying that she misses her mother, father and brother, before saying she wants to go back to Tokyo, which our boy hears and makes him feel worse for her, realizing this little kid after reinsertion became a slave, so he sleeps closer to make her feel safe. When Latifah wakes up and sees him too close, the girl freaks out, but then she remarks how he looks like her big brother. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, she was the little girl on the bus when the accident happened. However, none of them know that yet, so for the meantime, they settle with Latifah addressing Rio as Oni-san. The next night, Rio is attacked by the beastkin of the Forest of Spirits when they assume he kidnapped Latifah merely because he's human. Rio tries to explain peacefully, but they don't listen and gang up on him, resulting in him being knocked out. He talks to his spirit guardian, telling him she's connected to him and he'll be okay, and then he awakens injured and chained. He gets welcomed by an elder lady that apologizes for their kin's actions and invites him to a sitting with the village elders, who also apologize for Rio and offer him anything he wants. So he asks the elders to take Latifah in and take care of her. He also asks if he can stay with the village for a while till the girl gets used to the village life, as she grew attached to him. They accept, and then a spirit comes out of thin air. She's the dryad spirit of the world tree. She reveals that there's a person spirit residing in our boy. A person spirit is what they call them, and the one within Rio is one of the few spirits that are strong enough to take the shape of a person. She also adds this spirit is much stronger than her, and that it's one of the 6 great ancient spirits. With the true nature of Rio's power out of the bag, the elders offer him the best treatment they can by giving him a luxury treehouse to stay in and 3 beastkin ladies to take care of him and Latifah. However, not all things are sweet, as we see the shady figure behind the practice attack is making a move that took a whole year later to do. When Rio's about to depart to the land of his ancestors, Latifah gets heartbroken at the thought of separating from her adoptive brother and runs away in tears. Meanwhile, the beastkin took note of a human in the forest, and when they arrived to question him, they noticed he was holding an egg. The guy escaped using a griffin, but suddenly a swarm of wyverns appear behind him. The sketchy man kills him remotely whilst he's in the wyvern nest taking all their eggs. Back to the action, the man falls to the ground and the egg breaks at Latifah's feet. When the dragon thing gets down and sees the egg, it gets enraged and attacks the kawaii fox girl. Thankfully, Rio arrives in the nick of time, and by using his newfound abilities, he defends his friends. The next day, he has a talk with his sister. They both tell each other that they come from Japan, but they don't know yet they were on the same bus when the accident happened. The village thanks Rio for defending them, and each elder gives him a unique gift. From weapons and armor to food and storage devices, he now has all that he needs to continue the journey successfully. 2 months after leaving the forest, Rio arrives in the country of Yagumo, where he meets the chief of the village, an old lady that turns out to be his grandmother. She takes him to a remote location where his parents' graves are and tells him she can't say right away why his parents left, but with time she might be able to. Until then, she offers him a stay at her house along with his cousin, who is 100% made from hot waifu material. Sadly, this fine material is also noticed by scumbags who try to assault her and his new female friend. Rio, who beats his way to the girl's room, sees the alpha douche above the chick, making him reminisce about his mother's death, so overcome with rage, he ends up almost killing the attackers. After the scumbags get detained, he goes to the hills to ponder his actions and thinks to himself about how he's becoming more like his earthly self rather than Rio. The next day, he apologizes to the people for the scene he caused, but they're not mad about it and rather thankful that he was there to protect them, and with that, they enjoy some good food. The next day, Rio's grandma hands a letter to one of the officers to deliver it to his father. After that, Rio and his group heads off towards the capital. After several days, Rio and the group arrive in the capital. Our boys head out to enjoy the city. Later, we see the officer has handed the letter to his father, who seems shocked after reading it. He tells his son to meet with this Rio and to bring the boy to him, who in turn introduces him to the king and queen of the land, which turns out to be the parents of his mother. Rio learns his father was a strong warrior who fought against the neighboring kingdom and was the guardian of his mother, but while the kingdom was doing a peace treaty signing with the neighboring kingdom, the prince of that kingdom took a liking to his mother, so he sent a man to kidnap her. However, his father saved her, and the kidnapper died in the process, so the other kingdom asked for his head for the peace signing to continue. Now, although it doesn't make any sense, the king and the party had no other choice but to marry the princess and his father in secret before making them flee the country. After revealing all that, Rio's grandparents ask him to reveal the horrible truth about his mother's death and his deep hatred towards the man responsible for it. Then, the king king asks Ryo to duel with one of his mother's past guardians and the strongest warrior as a test of his strength and whether he can continue on his quest for revenge against the man who was strong enough to kill his father. Ryo accepts and wins, showcasing his strength and resolve to avenge his mother to his grandparents. After that, Ryo spends a few more months living in the village, and this time, before he departs from Yagumo to continue his journey, he gets approached by a fair maiden that confesses her love for him, and sadly, it doesn't matter how much I wanted him to say welcome to the harem, the result would end the same with him saying, sorry, I can't retain your feelings. Although it crushed her heart and mine a little, a chat with the Giga Chad man lifted her spirit and encouraged her to say one last goodbye Naruto style, just like when Sasuke left useless Sakura behind in the Leaf Village. But enough with pleasant memories, back to the story. Now in the Forest of Spirits, Ryo reunites with Latifa and her friends. He meets the elders and asks them if they can prepare a house he can carry in the storage device, then heads to his room to sleep. The next morning comes, and he's surprised when a woman he's never seen before is sleeping beside him in her birthday suit. The mysterious woman appearing before Ryo introduces herself as the guardian spirit, who he names Aisha. After finishing his preparations and receiving a teleportation device that allows him to get back faster to the village and an earring that allows him to change the color of his hair, Ryo as well as Aisha travel back to the Bertram Kingdom where it all started. He learns that his friend and teacher Celia Claire is about to be forcibly married to Charles Ardor, an old enemy of his. This is all happening because after a crushing defeat in a war, the royal family had lost their power. When Ryo reunites with Celia and talks a bit till it becomes clear even to a blind man that she must marry Charles for political reasons, but she doesn't admit it as she doesn't want to make more trouble for the lover boy. She thanks Ryo for meeting her once more and sends him away. Ryo has doubts if he should stop the wedding or not. Then we get to meet one of the princesses who stayed in the country, and she's grown so much in the last 4 years, which is kind of weird to see when you're standing next to Celia, who hasn't changed one bit. But anyway, we're not here to talk about plot holes in an isekai, we're here to see our boy man the F up and play his role as an isekai hero. And an isekai hero he is, as Ryo stops the wedding with the approval of Celia while acting like a kidnapper. He sweeps the girl up and saves the damsel in distress by stealing a page out of his father's book. He proceeds to escape out of the kingdom with the help of Aisha, of course. He manages to shake the guards off him and they end up in the mountains where he sees space-time rifts, indicating the summoning of other Japanese entities under the request of Aisha, who seems troubled. He then goes to rescue 3 kids kidnapped by bandits for slave trading purposes. However, the big surprise turns out to be Ayase. His childhood friend slash crush is one of the isekai kids. You heard that right. The studio decided to end the series on a cliffhanger where the main man meets his crush yet again. And oh boy, we can't wait for season 2 to see how the harem situation plays out. Until then, we'll continue delivering some of the best recaps out there, so stay tuned.